Hello and welcome to my new art talk, where I will speak about the new piece of art just presented at the Christie's auction house on the 1st of March. And I would like to say that this work of art may be very well qualified as a piece of a contemporary art. And the major quality of the contemporary art is that it resonates in hearts and souls of contemporary people. And that's how ancient Greek art or ancient Egyptian art or art of Leonardo da Vinci and other creators of the Renaissance can be contemporary. Here, I will talk about the work of art by Francis Bacon. It was created in 1986, 1987, but it does look like it was just created this February of 2022. And when Francis Bacon was contemplating on this creation of his, he said that the initial idea came with a question: what can I do to create world peace? And this is the question that many artists have asked themselves. So let us take a look at the answers Francis Bacon came up with. So now you can see the Triptych 1986-1987 made by the English artist Francis Bacon, who was born in 1909. And so we deal here with one of the representatives of his late period of art making. And Triptych for Bacon was the major and the most interesting format in which he continued to work for a long time in his life. And this kind of cinematic combination of images when different canvases coordinated and created the whole unity by the dialogue between themselves. So let us see what these three elements have inside of their artistic spaces. And here we see the first character which comes towards us, and this is Thomas Woodrow Wilson. So Thomas Woodrow Wilson was the 28th president of the United States, and he was chiefly responsible for signing the famous Treaty of Versailles that ended the First World War. And so Francis Bacon took this photograph of Woodrow Wilson leaving the Paris conference, where all the preparations for the signing of the Versailles Treaty were organized and held. It is very important to know that Woodrow Wilson is one of the greatest peacemakers in the history of mankind. And so the Treaty of Versailles was signed in 1919. And in the same year, he was awarded the Nobel Prize for peacemaking. And so here in the picture, we see him leaving the conference of Versailles negotiations. And he was the author of the concept of the United Nations organization. He invented this specific organization which would be responsible for holding the peace in the world. And so here we can see that um, Francis Bacon worked with this photograph and even used some blurry elements like the in this image of Woodrow Wilson leg. But at the same time, it wasn't just copying the photograph. He created the whole visual concept of leaving the place where peace negotiations were being held. And yes, the treaty was signed, but and yes, the First World War was ended after this Versailles Treaty was signed. But still, the world peace was not the concept to define the 20th century. And in the picture, we see this black space behind Woodrow Wilson. And this moment when he steps down into the ground, like leading from the darkness into the light side of the world. Still, his eyes are looking down, and he is like a fragile figure which is outlined against this blackness, which is still awaiting the world. So let us see another character. This part of the triptych comes in the right side of the whole composition. And what is repeated here is this blackness, the black hole, the black space, which opens in the central upper part of the canvas. And who is stepping towards us here? This is a still life version of the portrait of Leon Trotsky. Uh, in the right part of the slide, you can see the photograph that inspired Francis Bacon. This is the photograph of the office in Leon Trotsky house in Mexico, where he lived, and he was killed in his office with an ice axe, and the blood was all over the study. And one of the things that were covered with blood was his working desk here, with this lamp and newspaper. This photograph, when Francis Bacon saw this photograph, this image of the working desk covered in blood, stick in his memory, and so he used this image of the bloody working desk in his work of art. And so we can see here the green lamp, the newspapers, the material of white cloth which covers the working desk and the desk itself. And so the Leon Trotsky was the famous creator of the idea of the revolution. So he fought for revolution for all his life. And so he fought for this new world he was trying to create in Russia. He was actually also a peace negotiator. In 1918, he was the chief leader of the Russian side in peace negotiations with Germany. It was before Russia pulled out of the First World War. And so when Francis Bacon uses this unusual still life kind of the portraiture here, he shows us how the ideas of peace may be also shattered and covered in blackness and the red spots of the death, red spots of the blood. Let us take a look at the third character, who is in the center of the whole composition of the triptych. And some art historians consider that the features of the characters, of the character of the male figure presented in the center are the combination of John Edwards, the then partner of Francis Bacon in 1986, and also another partner of his, one of the greatest loves of his life, George Dyer, who was the main character of this historically famous triptych, August 1972. Here, in this work of art, Francis Bacon worked with the concept of death. And so these three figures here are the embodiment of different stages, three different stages of transformation when human flesh and blood comes dematerialized and disappearing into the void of death, into the void of non-existence. And so this dematerialization is basically one of the main concepts that interests Francis Bacon during his whole career. And so when we look at this central part of the triptych, we see this human figure, which is also depicted against this blackness of the open door of the background. This window to the blackness opens, and the character here is represented in his profile and looking at the side, at his side. And so we can see how the features of his face get blurred, and the whole figure melts. And this melting part reminds us about the transformation that happened with the figure of the main character in Triptych August 97, which was about the suicide of the person who was beloved by Francis Bacon. And so this idea of a very dear person getting transformed into the non-existence element of the universe. This reflections inspired this work of art, and this work of art always stayed in Francis Bacon's mind for years, no matter what other turn his life took or what other artwork he was making. So here we see that the main character in the central canvas, he is sitting on a chair, and the legs of the chair, they start moving, and the black podium on which the chair stands is getting upwards, and the leg of the chair is getting down into this blackness that opens beneath the podium. And so it looks like an element in many medieval composition about the Last Judgment, where the graves of the dead get opened and all the dead come to the Last Judgment. So this podium becomes like the board of the grave, which gets opened. And so this final moment of the Last Judgment is getting nearer and nearer. And so in this triptych, we have these three elements of the composition. And we have the reflections of the world leaders really trying to make peace, but incapable, and all the attempts still are in vain. They cannot be the real instrument in this fight against death, which is the major power in this human world. Here in this slide, we see Francis Bacon himself near the triptych he created, Triptych 1986-1987. And actually, we have looked through three characters like Woodrow Wilson, Leon Trotsky, George Dyer. No matter who the character is, the main character of the work of art is always the artist himself. And in a way, this is the fourth and maybe the first and the main character of the picture is Francis Bacon himself. And the triptych may be called the self-portrait of the artist. Here you can see another self-portrait Francis Bacon was working on at the same period of his creativity. And the position of the head, the blurry style, which transforms the human head into almost undefinable spot, with the clock included into the composition of the head. This is the symbol of mortality, of time passing, and the death coming. And Francis Bacon used to say that birth and death have always been the same thing for him. And he said that there has always been the violence of life. And so no matter what efforts political leaders of the world or the organizations we establish try to do, this life still is being the short moment between two blacknesses which open behind and before us. So we are these characters stepping from one blackness when we get born into another blackness when we die. And this vain attempts to create peace in this world are very devastating for the human existence, which is about this short moment of discontent and that what life is about. So this work of art was presented at the Christie's auction house on the March 1st of 2022, and this was one of the major events in the art world to see this work of art, to see the contemporary status of what the artist was saying almost 40 years ago, and see how these ideas resonate with the world today. So thank you very much. I hope to see more of you in my next art talks, and hope you enjoyed the reflection I had on the triptych by Francis Bacon. Thank you very much for your attention.